Welcome to Off the Cut, a podcast where we talk about building, making,
and answering all of your questions.
I'm Eric from Spenceley Design Co.
And I'm Zach from Zach Builds. If you have a question that you would like us to answer on air, you can send it to offthecutpodcast@gmail.com.
You can find both of us on YouTube, Instagram, and unfortunately, because we have to keep up with kids, you can find us on TikTok too.
All right, now let's get into the show. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Off the Cut, episode 051, where up in Toronto, today is known as Tuesday. Oh, no, wait, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry, man. I'm sorry.
If Eric was here, that never would have happened.
I know.
Well, today is February 8th, and because Eric is on a very selfish press tour with Festool, we have Mark from Remarkable Woodworks filling in for him.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me, man. This is really, really cool. I'm like blown away by the whole everything. It looks so good. And like I said, if I would have known I would be downstairs, I would have the set all set up and everything. And now I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like a schmuck. I feel
you're
letting Eric down.
No. It's funny because I think the last time you did the show, we had a much different system figured out for you. Basically, we just webcammed with you on like Google Meet, and then I did everything on the back end. But now you actually get to see what it looks like when it gets piped out to everybody else.
That's so cool, man.
So it's a little bit different now. We're trying to step up our production game here.
It's so cool because the last time I was on the show, I remember Eric was even like, oh, look at this guy. He's got like the whole thing in the background and everything. Yeah. And I was like, I tried really, really hard. You guys are like legit celebrities. So I was like trying to fit in. And then he was like, no, we don't do any of that. He's like eating soup or something like that. And then I'm like, okay, it's going to be like a chill night. I'm in my track pants. I'm just all set up. I got like legit diapers and stuff beside me. It's just... yeah, it's just whatever, man. I'm just happy to hang. I'm happy to hang out.
It is a chill hang, no matter how high or low the production is. It's the conversation that's important. Nobody cares. Sure. All right. Now, Eric will kill me if I don't do the food of the day. Okay. It's an off-the-cut tradition. So today, February 8th is Molasses Bars Day.
Does every day have a food?
Yes, evidently every day has a food. There's a website that you can go to. I can't remember what it's called, but I had to go and check what it was for today.
What?
Do you even know what? I think we must have done a podcast on February 8th last year, because I swear we've had molasses bars before, and I had no idea what it was.
So then that's what I was going to say is like, now what happens? You guys have cycled through 365. Now you're just going to keep like reminding people that it's like vegetable stick day or something?
Yeah, you know what? That's a flaw in the algorithm that we...
Okay, all right. I'm happy to... hey, I'm here and I'm already effing things up. So why,
This is episode 051, which is episode 51 for people who speak in normal English. Yeah. And I think this might mark a year of us doing the podcast, because we've had a couple weeks off here and there. So I think we started in Feb of 2022.
That's a huge thing. So funny story. I have been a part of podcasts before.
Shout out your podcasts. Multiple.
We'll get there in a second. We'll get there a little bit later, I guess. But I'm only on one. I'm only one podcast now.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Crazy. But yeah, anyways, I am no stranger to the podcast world, and I've done a ton of research on it. And if you get to 8 episodes, you are considered one of the top 10 podcasts, because 90% of them don't get to 8.
Yeah.
It's insane. And then like 97 don't make it to 20. It's crazy.
It really is crazy. So I remember when we first put out our very first podcast, or maybe it was like the second or third one, but pretty quickly we got a notification from Anchor, which is our podcast service, that we were in like the top 5% of podcasts.
It's crazy, eh? That's so crazy.
But it's crazy, but it's also like, well, I can see the numbers. Like, it wasn't like we were doing like amazing crazy numbers right off the bat, but it was just like, we had a couple hundred listeners or a few hundred listeners or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And that was enough to put us in the top 5%, which was crazy.
It's bananas. Absolutely bananas. But I'm just
you
grateful for anybody other than my mom that listens to my shows.
Yeah. I'd be grateful if my mom listened to my show.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's funny. There's just, I mean, I think especially during the pandemic, like a lot of people were locked at home. They're like, I'm looking for a creative outlet. I have a microphone. I have a computer. Podcast is the clear and easy solution here, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So I think there were a lot started, but it's hard. It's hard to make time every week to sit down and do it and organize it all. So
do you have a favorite podcast that isn't like, do you listen to podcasts?
Oh yeah, I listen to tons of different podcasts.
Okay, sweet.
I'm trying to think of like
isn't in your world.
Like none of the stuff I listen to is like woodworking related. Eric's always Eric's always like, oh, I was listening to like Steve Ramsey's podcast yesterday. I was listening to like the Shop Sounds podcast the other day.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I need to escape.
Well, like, what about YouTube and stuff? Do you listen or watch a lot of other like woodworkers and DIYers and stuff?
No.
Yeah,
I don't.
Neither do I.
I mean, this is going to sound really bad. I watch your videos because I'm sub to you and like they come up.
Yeah.
But 90% of the videos that I watch are like camera. Like I'm a big camera geek.
Yes.
So like I'll watch those things.
Yes.
And then the other 10% is finance. So like I'm a big finance geek.
I did know that about you, but that's a nice little reminder. Yeah.
So I'm like 10% on the finance. I've got like 2 or 3 channels, and then like I said, you're really the only like builder channel. That's Scott Brown Carpentry is a really good YouTube page. He is a carpenter out of New Zealand.
Okay. I think maybe you told me about him once. Is
he's
amazing at trim?
Dude, no, he's like, there's like another. So when I was like learning how, like in the trade, like all that stuff, I consumed a whole ton of YouTube.
Yeah.
But then it like when you do it every day, you want like an escape. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to like back up. So, but Scott Brown Carpentry is one of the things that have stuck with me because his videos are like old school Casey Neistat type vlogs.
Okay.
With that like attachment for me because it's carpentry and stuff like that. So it's really cool because he's in New Zealand. So it's like you see pink lumber and like he kind of like breaks everything down. It's pretty interesting.
Pink lumber.
It's like their PT is pink.
Oh, their PT. Speaking of, we should talk a little bit later on about the Micro Pro Sienna campaign.
Oh yeah. 100%.
But before we do that, I want to talk cameras with you because I always bring up camera stuff to Eric. He's like, I don't know. I've got a Panasonic GH5 Micro Four Thirds. Like, it's good enough for me.
Oh, that's a great camera.
It is a great camera. But he's never really willing to talk as much shop with me as I think you will be because you just got a new camera, right?
I geek out over camera stuff. And I'm kind of low-key pissed because I did just get a new camera. And I've been like doing a bunch of research on it, and I broke down, and this is like my first like I call it like big person like adult camera, because it was thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So I bought the S5. So for those that don't know, it's Lumix Panasonic. S5, and I am like, so a little history of Mark. And I started making my YouTube videos on my cell phone.
Oh, okay.
And so the first couple of YouTube videos that are god awful, they're all shot on an iPhone.
Okay.
And I had this little jerry rig, like it was like a cage. So you had your iPhone like this, and then it kind of connected in, and then it had this cage around it, and then the microphone sat up like this. So I had a Rogue mic, and it was like connected in like that, and I had to set this whole connection up on a tripod while I'm on site for client work. It was the most embarrassing thing ever, but I really wanted to do content. And then that kind of kind of propelled me into like getting into like watching Peter McKinnon videos and stuff. And then I got gifted a Panasonic G9.
Okay.
So at the time, this is probably 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
and it's a Micro Four Thirds camera. So I was too afraid to touch it. I couldn't figure out all the whole dynamics of it. And then finally during COVID, I was like, okay, I'm going to break this camera out and I'm going to actually try it. And I couldn't handle the crop. It was like the crop was driving
so tight.
me absolutely
So tight.
Crazy.
You had to get these like super wide angle lenses to get like even a close to a normal field of view.
It was insane. So I'm trying to do this YouTube series on like my curve. So I built like a curved pergola. It's like something not normal.
Looks great.
Thank you. And I was going to I wanted to do a whole YouTube thing on it. So I shot like 3 YouTube videos on this thing. And this footage, I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day because it's so hard. For those of you who don't know what a Micro Four Thirds camera is, it basically you have a full frame, which is like what you see right now. And then for whatever reason, these Micro Four Thirds cameras, they crop everything. So it's like like this. So when you're trying to build something or you're trying to explain something, you like have to crunch down in the most uncomfortable, awkward positions. And it was just like super, super crazy. So then a friend of mine was like, do you know Nick Key?
I know the name.
Key Woodworks or something like that. Anyways, he's like, that's what he does, video production.
Okay.
He's a woodworker from Kentucky. And he messaged me and he was like, dude, like, honestly, get yourself a Canon M50. They're like $600.
Yeah.
And buy yourself a Sigma lens.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought a Prime 16.
Yep.
Prime, if you don't know, just means that it's like you can't change the focal length. You can't change it at all. It's just 16 millimeter.
No, it is what it is.
Exactly. But a 16 millimeter is like pretty wide.
Yeah.
And it's good for basically for vlogging, which is kind of like what my channel wasn't supposed to be. So that's what I've been shooting every single thing on my channel up until.
Very good looking lens, by the way, too. Like that combination, man. If you're looking for something that's like under $1,000, but you get like real nice, good looking footage out of, like, it's hard to go wrong with that combo.
Honestly, and they just came out with the M50 Mark II.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's like it now. So like before, I could only shoot my like 1080 at 24 frames per second.
Yeah.
Whereas the new Mark II, you can get like I think you can shoot 4K at 30.
Yeah.
But you can do like 120 at 1080. So like when I'm shooting YouTube video, like that's great for what you're going to be doing, like especially in like the woodworking world. You're just like stationary. You probably want to get maybe a slow-mo of like some saws or something, like some sawdust flying. But we're not really doing like crazy cinematic things. And then for those of you who don't know, I like geek out around Zach stuff too. I think he's super talented. So
thank you, dude.
Yeah, I was reached out for a potential TV show and they were like, who do you want to work with? Who do you want to work with? And I was like, oh, this guy Zach, he's great. He's from Toronto. And then we hooked up and we connected really well. And then we tried to like film a bunch of stuff for this TV show. And then you came out to help me shoot some content for another gig that I had. And that's what ultimately led me into falling in love with like photography more so and video than you know whatever storytelling I guess you could say, because your shots, your eye for photography, and I don't know if people know this, and if I'm just kind of like doing a whole word salad and talking really fast,
keep going. This is great. You're giving compliments. You can go all day if you want.
Yeah, exactly. But it was awesome, man. Like just the way, like the detail, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what camera are you using? And I think you were using the Sony A7S III.
I think back then I was just using the A7 III, but then I upgraded to the A7S III.
Yeah, so we did that, and then I loved the footage. Like you sent me some photos, and I thought it was fantastic. And then when you upgraded, I remember it was right around, so like just as the world was kind of getting back to normal, Canada was kind of like far behind them.
Yes.
So 2021, we were still technically in lockdown.
Yeah.
But DeWalt hosted like a private event for you and I at your shop.
Oh yeah. That was a lot of fun.
That was so sick. I need to get better at like telling more of these stories, because like people are like, what? And they get so surprised. I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. So anyways, when we were there, I remember like you and I were talking and you're like, this camera is amazing. The battery run life is amazing. And then ever since then, I was like on Sony super, super hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then lo and behold, there's a Toronto YouTuber called Chris Howe.
Yeah.
He's like, Sony, I'm leaving Sony. I'm going to Lumix. And then that caught my attention because that's where I started using. So Lumix is amazing for beginners because it's like everything is so basic. Like,
interesting.
It's like it's set up in a way where like you've got manual, you've got like play with the shutter, play with the aperture, and then like complete manual mode. Okay, so it's like broken down so that you can kind of like you can learn in like different stages. And I loved the way that it worked, but the battery life sucked. And the Micro Four Thirds, I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So when you were like dual card slots and the battery life is amazing, and it doesn't have a that's the other thing with the M50 is if you're gonna run it for a long period of time, there's a 30-minute recording limit,
which is a weird thing that Canon does on all cameras to this day, I think, and there's no reason for it. Like it's just the weirdest little restriction they put on their cameras. I don't know why.
I think the R6 doesn't have one.
Oh, okay.
And they just came out like 2 days ago with something called the R9.
Yes, I saw that.
Drooling over that. But anyways, so here's the thing. I was like, I low key started a new business. I don't know if you know this, but I did.
What's that? Well, okay.
We'll get into it in a second.
Okay.
I'm calling it a creative agency. Okay?
Oh,
and I think you and I have talked about this.
Yes, we have for sure.
Low key. So I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna need a camera that isn't just for YouTube, right? Yeah, yes. I need the option of doing really good photos and good video.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing all this research, and then the Lumix stood out to me because history there, and then I pull the trigger. So I bought the S5, and I'm messing around with it, and it's good. I haven't had a chance to like really dive into it, and I'm playing catch up on some YouTube videos. So now I'm caught up 100%. I have one in the queue that I've shot with the M50 and the Sigma.
Yeah. And then it's over to everything shot on the S5.
So here's where my dilemma is I'm dialed in. My settings are in.
Right.
My everything is I just push the button on my M50, and for YouTube I'm good to go.
Yes,
I'm happy with the footage.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I break out and test it, but then again I don't know where I'm going to test it. So that's how this all kind of came up, because I was like, I should hook the S5 up to do the video stream, because then all of a sudden it gives me a reason to like mess around with it.
Yeah, it's true. So I would say, and advice to you and to anybody who gets a new camera, go and find one of those super boring YouTube videos where they just go through every single setting in the menu. They're like, this does this, this does this, this does this. It's like watching paint dry. But I did that when I first got my Sony a7S III. I did that. I now literally know what every button on the camera does, which I didn't know for the longest time. Like I used that camera for 6 months, and there's like 5 buttons on the back of it. I was like, I don't know what the hell the AEL button does. It's like,
dude, this camera has another reason why I love it is it has 3 buttons on it that you just push, and it's like, let's say you want to shoot. Again, I don't know how far we want to geek out into like camera stuff, but standard shooting.
We're gonna go. We're gonna go.
Let's just say you want a standard shooting. Okay, YouTube settings. So we're talking 1080p and 24 frames per second. Okay, and then my shutter can automatically be set. Doesn't matter where it's.
That's nice.
There's an option on the S5 where you set it to. Your shutter is like usually 1 second. It's like 1/60 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
There's an option where you can change it to percentage.
Yes.
So as long as you're 180, it automatically, no matter what frame rate you're shooting in, it automatically sets it properly. I'm like, what a life changer.
Yeah.
Because
You
there's been
would've-
several times where I've like, I don't know if I've hit the dial by accident,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden I get into post, and then it's
Yeah.
like, why is it so like,
why does it look blurry, or why does it look
Gross.
like I'm watching a soap opera or something like that? I see this all the time. People give me their camera and it'll be in 24 frames per second recording, but then their shutter speed will be like 1/100, so it like kind of looks like the soap opera effect.
Yeah,
it's like, it's such an easy thing to happen. Like your finger can just bump the dial or something like that and it goes way off. So having that shutter angle control is like the greatest thing, and Sony doesn't do it on any of their cameras, and it really bothers me.
So so this is the thing is, I know I get super passionate about a lot of things, but when I'm doing YouTube videos, maybe we'll talk about this in the episode or something like that, but like I am very interested to see what your kind of like creative process is for that.
Yeah.
Because when I'm doing it, I have so much stuff on my mind, and I don't know, like I'm an anxious person. I don't know if it's that, but
me too.
The last thing that I want to be thinking about are the
Settings.
settings on my friggin' camera.
Yes, because
it's
you-
just, yeah.
You want your camera to be as simple as possible when you get down to doing the creative thing, right?
100%.
Like, you want your camera to not ever stand in the way of you telling the story.
100%.
It's you don't want to be messing with settings. You just want to hit that record button, say what you got to say, because it's hard enough to do that, and then get on to actually doing the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, low key, like I geeked out, and then so the reason why I was upset was because the S5 came out like in 2020 or something, and I'm watching all these videos. I bite the bullet, and of course it takes like forever and a day to get here.
Right.
I shit you not. Can I swear? I swear
you can now.
to not. I get the box in my hand, and I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. Check to make sure that it works, because sometimes that goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Friday, Chris Howe uploads a video, and he goes, S5 Mark II. That it comes out now. I'm like,
I know.
The only thing apparently about this camera, which I didn't really care that much about, was the autofocus. It's like there's like a little tiny bit of delay, which you can kind of fix. You can fix with like a different lens. But then he's like, perfect. The autofocus is perfect and everything's perfect. And then of course they give you like a little bit more of a frame rate to shoot with, and you have like all those different types of options. And I'm just like, but everything's the same. What I was gonna say is, one thing I love about the camera is it has like these three different settings, like three different options.
Oh, like quick settings?
Yeah, and it's just 3 buttons, dude.
Yeah.
It's like legit. If I'm like talking head just in the camera, boom, I push it 24 frames per second, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna be shooting B-roll, and I want a little boom, and then I'm at 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
App or shutter speed already changes, and I'm just like, just those little tiny things that I'm just like, And then another option that I haven't had a chance to play with yet is that you can shoot in a 4:3 format.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Yes, for content
cropping
creators.
to vertical. Yeah.
Yes. So I was trying to explain this to Eric, why it's such a game changer. It's essentially shooting video, instead of it being a landscape orientation, it's basically a square box. It's a little, it's a little more rectangular than a perfectly square box, but it's pretty close. And that allows you to film everything. So say you're in your shop, you're working, you film it on your camera, then you come back to your editing station. You can now crop in to do a 16:9 for YouTube, or you can go 9:16 so that you can do, Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. It just gives you so much more vertical real estate to work with, so you're not cropping way in, and you can like still see everything that's going on in the frame.
Yeah, so the frame, when you're shooting a standard 16:9 for YouTube, for example, which is kind of rectangular, what you would look like, or what you would look for at a photo if it was like in landscape.
Yeah.
So you've got landscape, and then you've got portrait, right? So portrait, and then you got landscape. And typically, like if you were to look at Zach right now, if he's filming for YouTube, you would be able to see his sound dampening panels on the other side. If he's shooting in 4:3, which is, there's a fancy word for it, but I can't remember.
Anamorphic, I think.
Yeah,
or
anamorphic.
Gate.
What?
Or open gate or anamorphic.
Yeah,
I think.
I think anamorphic is what I've. Regardless, when he's filming, you wouldn't see those panels. You would just see kind of like him and the mic, and then like the wooden pieces, kind of like that white little frame there. So then, when he's in post, you can clean that up either for YouTube or for your TikToks and stuff, which is amazing because that's what you do, right? Like that's how you operate. You take your you spend your time on YouTube, and then you bite size it after that.
Exactly. So my workflow is I shoot everything, I make the YouTube video, and then I start thinking, okay, what short form content can I pull out of this longer form video, right? Yeah. And if you've ever tried to pull a 9:16, like a vertical video out of a horizontal video, you're basically throwing away 66% of the frame, I think.
Yeah.
So it ends up being really tight on everything. Like even if you're just doing a talking head shot, like it's just your head, like your shoulders are cropped out of the frame because it's so tight. So it's a big change. I actually got the new GoPro because the new GoPro,
or 11?
The 11, because the new GoPro has a 8:7 or 7:8. So it's even more square than the Lumix is, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I have the 10, and I really like it. Just that screen on the front is like they should have done that years ago. It's stupid.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is, so anyways, I buy this camera, and then we have the same editor. So he's kind of like my only. Yeah, Bryson is phenomenal. And low key super frustrated with you sometimes because you like to hog him a lot, which I understand, but that's okay.
Yeah, we fight over him quite a bit.
So he is just the nicest person in the world, and he's over the one time, and we're talking, and then he bought the Sony S4.
The Sony A7 IV.
A7 IV, thank you.
Yeah.
So he's messing around with it, and it's noticeable for me. Even though I don't have I don't mess around with that type of footage very often. Like I said, I normally shoot in 1080p because it just doesn't, when everything gets compressed. So you always want to shoot in the highest frame rate possible and like in the highest resolution possible. But when you send it up to the internet, everything gets compressed. And I just have this theory that like it does less compression if you're shooting at standard definition now. Because I feel like everybody is shooting in 4K and they're sending it up to this, like up to the cloud, like whatever, the bandwidth.
The YouTube server.
Yeah. And then so the server is like, oh, okay, finally, I don't have to like work as hard to like compress this now. So I think this is just, it like minimizes your footprint on your storage and all that other whatever. It doesn't look as good. But
it looks fine though. You know what I mean? Like
for the internet, it's great.
Exactly. The thing is, like, if you have a good video, it's gonna be a good video if it's in 1080p or if it's in 4K.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like the story and what you're trying to communicate are so much more important than that extra little bit of resolution.
And this is really, really funny because I'm trying to take YouTube more serious this year. And so I've done a lot more research on just playing with analytics and numbers and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit more present on the back end of YouTube than I have in any other platform. Yeah. And especially like now, because Instagram sucks in my opinion, and TikTok is just exhausting. So it's really funny because I always doubt my ability to edit the way that I want to tell my story. So
how do you mean? Like,
so I'm like super self-conscious about my videos, like the videos that I have edited.
Yeah.
I'm not the most proud of, but it's like, they take me like 10 hours to edit. And I'm like, I don't really love like this. And I wish I could do that and blah, 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 blah. Enter Bryson, and I'm like super proud of the videos that we are able to make.
Yes.
I'm able to shoot in a certain way. I am very confident in my eye for shooting. where he's just learning like that side of things. His strong suit is in editing, right?
Yes, yeah.
So when we're together, it's really cool because I'm like, hey, you do this, like take the camera down here, hold it like this, boom, 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 and this is the kind of angle that I want. He's like, what the hell? And then and it works.
Yeah.
But then when I go back and look at the numbers on the videos that I shot, they're my best performing videos. It's the content.
Yes.
So before, my content was more so like, for example, I posted this video of me fixing a table saw, and it's awful. It's so bad.
You fixing it? I don't know if I've seen that one. I was looking at
so
your channel earlier today.
I was so I was using like a DeWalt table saw, just like a standard job site table saw.
Yeah.
And one of the problems is like it gets like the grime and guck and everything gets like it gets super hard to crank.
You got to clean out the teeth, right?
Yeah. So the first time that happened to me, I threw out the saw.
Oh, really?
I threw it out. I threw it away, bought another one. And then it happened again. And I was like, no, there's something wrong. Something has to be going on here. So I reached out to Toolaholic, and he's like, no, your gears are all messed up in your crankshaft.
Yeah.
So you have to like blow it out. And then he uses like this gear goo that he gets at Canadian Tire.
Oh, I should check that out because my SawStop saw is all funky right now.
So I'm talking like the only way I could get my saw blade to raise was like I'd flip it upside down and like beat on it while I was cranking it. It was crazy. So then I was like, I'm going to make a video about this because this is annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I make a video. It's so bad. Like I watched it maybe a couple of days ago and I'm like, this is awful. But to this day, I still get like really positive feedback. And it's like drawing. If you look at like what videos are drawing people in, that's the video.
So I was talking about this with Eric a couple weeks ago. I found this video. It was by a big, like relatively big YouTuber. I think he has like 350,000 subscribers or something like that. And he was talking about his YouTube journey and how for the first little bit, like he was making videos and he was having like success with some videos and not with others, and he never really understood why. And it was kind of became this thing. He's like, well, I guess it's just the algorithm, like shrug my shoulders. Yeah. And so he was talking about this concept of being a naive artist. And I think both of us fall under that category because we're not trained as filmmakers. Like you didn't go to film school. I didn't go to film school, right?
No.
So we make these videos sometimes and we try and do our best and we try and, weave a story and all these things, but it's kind of just a little bit of a crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
And so I've been wanting to take some time off. I think I'm going to do it and study more film theory so that I can make better films.
Dude, so this is hilarious that you say this because I have done that. That's what I'm doing right now. I don't know if you've paid attention, but like I'm not as present on social.
I have definitely noticed that. I thought that was more for business reasons. I thought you were just so busy with your other projects.
Yes and no. So like I've always had my hand in a bunch of different cookie jars.
Yeah.
And recently I've started scaling back and just trying to like figure out like what is it that fills my cup? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
And it starts with family. And then it goes to like, okay, like why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Where does this get me, in the next step? And then trying to like scale other things back. So I have some things going on in my personal life that really like help put things into perspective. And it's just like, I just want to be able to like, just be like, enjoy it. And that's where, when I was on the tools every day and that's all I could think about. It's like, I just want to make videos.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I have the time to make the videos, I'm like at a block creatively because I want to make like I want to make them like I want to make them huge. And so I was like, okay, well, if that's something that I really want to get into, like one of my biggest things, and Bryson, like I feel bad for him because I bring it up all the time, is I want to shoot a documentary.
Yeah, you've been talking about that.
I want to shoot a documentary about mental health in the trades. And I have it planned out. I've reached out to some people, some really interesting people are on board. I've never shot a documentary before. I've watched them, but then it's like the amount of time, energy, and like and to craft the story, like we're talking years and years and years of work for people that already know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, okay, if I took a year off, would it really matter in the grand scheme of things, and focus on like dialing in skills that make the process more enjoyable?
Mm-hmm.
Then it'll be fun again, right? Or
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? It was like, I don't know where it came from, where I was like, I have to do this now, and I have to do this now, and like, because you put so much pressure on yourself.
I think, okay, so there's a couple of things. I think as soon as you get started in the social media game, you get this feeling that you have to keep producing content no matter what. Like, you had to stick to schedule, you had to upload regularly, because that's what all the advice is.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't think that's true. I think, I don't think you had to be a daily vlogger on YouTube. I think you might, I've been listening to Mr. Beast a lot.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is that a video that's just like 10% better will get twice the reach of a video that's 10% worse. So it's like an exponential thing. The better you can make your video. So I think you're actually better off trying to craft like really good videos and just even if you only release like 6 of them a year or something like that, but they're just like absolute bangers that keep people engaged and watching and interested, then I think that's a much better use of your time than making 24 kind of crappy videos because you felt you had to like stick to schedule.
Yeah. And that's where my whole thing was like, trying to treat it like a business. And obviously when you do that, you want it to be profitable. You want to make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where this other kind of business kind of fell into place. So I'm so very, very, very fortunate to be where I am and be able to work with the people that I get to work with and the brands and the connections that I've made. It's just a dream come true.
Yeah.
And what's funny about it is I'm not as vocal about it on social. So it's this weird kind of like, before these opportunities happened, I showcased for the most part, every single part of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids were in it. My daughter was in it. My wife was in it. And all these other things happened. And I say this all the time. People probably are sick of hearing about it. But my daughter and my wife were at the park one day. And this dude came up to my wife and introduced himself. And she was like, my name is X. And he goes, I know.
Oh.
And then he goes, boom. And then he goes, has Aubrey, whatever. And I normally don't like mentioning her name, but that's my daughter's name. And he knew my daughter's name. And my wife was like taken back and was like, I'm sorry, do I know you? And he was like, oh, I follow Mark on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like 2 or 3 years ago. No, longer, like pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And it just didn't sit right with me. It scared me because I live in a small town. Like, I'm not in Toronto where it's like, different, whatever.
Yeah.
And at the time I was working out of my garage. So like my garage would be open and then like people would walk in and like walk by, walking their dogs and stuff. And then they come in and they'd say hi and blah, blah. And my wife was like, it's just weird that people know who you are. And I think I only have like 10,000 followers, but it's that little, like that like little small town kind of thing. That's what people start recognizing it. Right. And they're like, oh, we like this. And then accidentally like fall into this opportunity and then fall into that opportunity. And then you start doing things. And then all of a sudden you realize like, my kid doesn't have a choice for all of this. Like what I choose to do for a living.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand. She doesn't get to say. And so perfect example. I accidentally wrote, I didn't accidentally. I wrote a children's book.
Yeah.
And it
stumbled into it and the pen happened to.
Exactly. It just like, oops. Oh, there it is. But it became a bestseller. And I was recently contacted to do an interview. So
cool.
Mike Holmes. Well, it wasn't Mike Holmes, but it was like an opportunity from a media outlet that wanted me and my daughter to interview Mike Holmes and his daughter.
Okay.
Okay, that was the concept. And I asked my daughter, who's 5, if she wanted to do this, and she said no.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, kids aren't content. I'm sorry. Like, if you post your kids, that's fine. If you have a small group and private and it's just for your friends and family. But for me personally,
at your scale, it's kind of a different thing, right?
Yeah. So for me personally, I was like, okay, I don't want my kids to do this unless they are comfortable with it and if they want to do it. Mm-hmm. She loves being on camera. She has this little like creator cam. She makes these little vlogs and stuff like that. So I know it'll probably be there eventually, but I want it to be there on her terms, not something that I kind of throw in there, right?
Yeah.
So I forgot where we were, like how.
Oh god, yeah, I don't know. This is how the podcast works. The conversations just kind of meander.
It's all over the place now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I have friends who have like new babies, and I've asked them like, what's your policy going to be like social media? Like, are you going to like show, like, I know people who won't even post pictures of their kids like when their baby's online because they don't like want that information in the cloud or whatever it is, right? So, and they're just like normal people, like they don't have tens of thousands of followers, right? So that's even a hard decision. And then when you get to the point like, okay, I'm now potentially showing this to tens, hundreds of thousands of people, like that, your kind of kid needs to have a say in that, but they also can't because they're so young.
Yeah, and that's where I was kind of going with things, is treating when you go into content creation for a living. Yeah, you have to treat it like a business. So then all of a sudden now your work is no longer like what you do with your hands. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So there's like layers to it, especially in our niche, because we're building things. Yeah. So there's a certain layer of or element of creativity to be able to think of something to build. Yep. Then a certain degree of talent to be able to execute on said build. Mm-hmm. And then there's another layer of creativity to compile all of that into a compelling story. Yes. And then another level. So it's like,
keep going. There's like 5 other layers that you have to add on top of that, right?
And I don't think people understand how exhausting it can be. And I know people say this, and I'm not upset. I'm not complaining. I'm not at all. It's just, it's just challenging, especially in the beginning. And that's why I was saying I'm super interested to learn about like your workflow, because I know everybody's different. And and sometimes I find now where it's like, these are things you're really good at, like coming up with outside the box builds that are like, if Mr. Beast was a woodworker, he would be Zach Builds. You know what I mean? Like those types of
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Whereas like me, it's like, okay, I'm going to do trim. I'm going to do flooring. And I'm trying to kind of be like, what if I'm turning this into a business, what is it outside of YouTube that I want? Like, what's that service? Like, what does that entail? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't actually. So are you trying to say like what skills are you showing off, or like where are you driving people to as?
Yeah. So let's say, okay. So I would assume that your goal is to go full-time YouTube.
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Okay. So then full-time YouTube, your income or your revenue, now that becomes your full-time job, which is now, I would say it started out as a hobby and then it kind of turned into a side hustle. So it wasn't a full-time job. So then now what do you do to escape from your full-time job?
Yes.
And how do you scale?
Yeah.
Like if it's a business model and you are the business.
Yeah.
How do you scale so that like once you get old like me and gray, you're not having to slave to come up with that that creative process.
Ladies and gentlemen at home, I think Mark is like a year older than me.
I am. Yeah, I think what year were you born in?
88.
Yeah, I'm 86, but I'm a late 86. So basically, yeah. But I just say that because I have 2 kids. So when you have 2 kids, it ages you by at least 10 years.
Well, and yeah, it also seriously cuts down on the amount of free time you have, which is a whole other discussion.
That's where Bryson comes into play big time.
Yeah.
But this is where my head goes, because I have this like entrepreneurial blood in me, where I have to be busy.
Yeah.
But if you do that, you have to think of like what's my exit strategy? How, if I'm going to do this, and that's where I'm at. It's like, I'm going to put all this time, energy, and money into creating really good YouTube videos.
So is your concern that you're going to get, you're going to be 50 years old and you can't keep making YouTube videos anymore because you're the oldest guy on YouTube? Is that kind of the concern?
I don't know if that's my concern. Am I going to want to make YouTube videos?
Are you going to want to make? Well, here's how because I've had this thought myself. Obviously, I think every content creator has to some extent, right? Like, what is the career arc of somebody in this profession, right? Because we're kind of in uncharted waters. This is a brand new industry.
Absolutely,
nobody knows what it looks like. But the way I see it, people have always connected with media personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So you're building the Remarkable Woodworks brand, and right now you happen to be on YouTube, but you're kind of building this meta skill of being able to communicate and being able to storytell and being able to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the key kind of thing that you'll be able to take and transfer into other things later on down the road. So say, 10 years from now, YouTube no longer exists. It's, AI ruined it or whatever with ChatGPT.
So you're reading my mind, man. You are reading my mind, because then I'm going to be like, okay, so there's robots that are going to take over the trades. I don't know if you've seen those trending videos, but then what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like all these different, anyways. Go on.
Yeah. So like robots take over the trades and stuff like that. But I think there's always going to be this need for human connection, like real, and to find a way to do that at scale. So, I don't actually think this is what it's legitimately going to be, but like hypothetically in the future, maybe you do like woodworking in VR.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, whatever the new technology, like Neuralink or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there's always going to be avenues. Maybe you get really into writing kids' books, and that just becomes like you're just collecting royalty checks for that into your later years.
Yeah. So then my question then is, and these are real things. Like maybe we'll save this for the episode, but my struggle is I'm no longer on the tools.
Yes.
So when I was on the tools, the content was there. It just came, and it was easy.
See, this is an interesting distinction that it exists between, like a weird disconnect that exists between you and I, because you will go on job sites and you will film yourself for YouTube.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm on job sites, I'm like, I can't film myself because the client's going to yell at me for like effing around and wasting time, right?
Yeah.
Like I know you obviously you pre-screened and you had you had a work situation where it was cool.
Yeah.
But I've never wanted to bridge that gap, so I have this separation where I'm very strategic with my videos because I only get Saturday and Sunday every week to film them, essentially.
Yeah.
So
and you're like, it's brilliant. I think we were brainstorming kind of like how for you to be a little bit more active in stories and stuff like that.
Yes,
and I love that you have been doing that. So that you have been like the way that you do your stories, because it resonates with me, because I like trades are my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love watching other people, like how they do things. So I don't know if you've noticed a difference, or like if you've noticed like your numbers kind of growing, or you get good feedback from it or anything.
Well, okay, so here's I took it, and I had to credit you with that, because you were the one who's like, you need to start documenting like more of the stuff you do at work. And I have been doing it more, and it's interesting. So I get a very good response from a a group of people. Like, I've been getting people in real life telling me that they absolutely love watching my stories.
Mhm.
But by the numbers, it's okay. It's like, it's good, but there's a disconnect between what I do day to day and then what I do on YouTube, right?
So then, what's the number that you need? I don't want to, we don't need to go into dollars and cents or whatever, but like, is there a subscription like amount of subscribers that you need to go full time? Is there like, is it strictly financial?
That's a good question.
What is it for you? Because I'm assuming you have your silver play button now.
Yes.
Lucky son of a gun.
Yeah, that's a good. Well, so part of the struggle for me is that it's a family business. Like, my day-to-day thing is like a family business. So I know that if I was like, hey, Dad, I'm gonna, fuck off and become a professional YouTuber now, I would
in
be
your shop.
Yeah, right. So like, I'm using company assets to create my videos. So that's the thing. I'm in a little bit of a tricky situation in that regard because I don't want to screw him over. So, right now I'm kind of like, I'm training an apprentice. I'm going to maybe look to scale back my hours.
Part-time.
Honestly, if I worked a corporate job, like if I was just a pencil pusher in an office, this point, I probably would have quit because like between all the content stuff and like the content stuff on like a medium month, it makes me as much, like on an average month, it makes me as much as my 9-to-5 job. And then on a good month, it just like blows it out of the water.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that's why I feel as fortunate as I do, because I don't feel like I've put in even close to the amount of work that you put in.
I don't think that's true.
But I have been fortunate enough to be that. And then there was a long time there where my brain was trained to be like more.
Yes. I think that was really bad advice that was super popular. Not so much now, you don't hear it as much.
It's like 2016, 2015, like in and around those things, like
gotta
Gary
vlog
Vee,
every day. You
hustle. You gotta work till you're dead. That your kids are gonna thank you later. Blah, 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 blah. And then here's the thing: is I got fired in late 2016, and then we found out. Sorry, yeah. Oh, I'm all over the place right now. We found out we were having a baby. 2017.
Okay.
And my daughter was born in 2017. So I got fired like 2 weeks before Christmas 2016.
Ooh, ouch.
And that was that I specifically remember because I'm like, I was doing I had like my side hustle was like my part-time thing, which was like woodworking and carpentry and stuff, right?
But you were working in like a gym or something that's fitness related beforehand, right?
I was a general manager for in the fitness industry for a while. I was in sales and stuff like that. And I'm certified personal trainer. You would not be able to tell that about my belly now, but that's fine. Anyways, my it kind of kicked me into that, like every single thing that I was consuming was work till you're dead, basically. And before that, in the corporate world, it's work, like work, and that's how you become successful. So it's like you need to like work first and then everything else. And then that's where that kind of like finance, like geek side of me is like, okay, I need more. I want to buy a house. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then again, super fortunate, and I don't even know where that comes from, to be honest. But
it's a good question, eh?
When I get into, when my son was born in 2021. When he was born, he got sick in the hospital. So he was premature. He was in the hospital for a bit when he was born, and then he got out. And then this kid got RSV twice, which is a really, really bad respiratory problem for newborns. And then when you're in a global pandemic that's respiratory, it's not good.
Yeah.
So this poor kid, in his first year, he had RSV twice, he had pneumonia, and he had COVID in the first year of his life.
Oh, buddy.
So he hospitalized, and I'm losing sleep, and I'm going, I'm still worried about going on on the job sites and the thing. And then in my
Mhm.
head, I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And it was like, I need more, I need more, I need more. And for me, I was the one, my wife wanted to be a stay-at-home mom forever. And we talked and she was like, I would love to be able to go back to work just to engage with people.
Right. Yeah.
But with the pandemic, that wasn't an option. So then the universe is just a weird thing where legitimately she was like, if I was to go back to work, I would need boom, 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 and boom. And in my head, I'm like, this is never going to happen. This is crazy. I'm going to work until I'm dead, probably. Lo and behold, I'm not kidding you, dude. This job just gets like, opportunity is like here, and it crosses every single thing that's off of her list, and like down to the point where like off camera I'll tell you, like fill you in the details, but it just blew my mind.
That's amazing.
Blew her mind. Like insanely grateful for how things worked out, because it was like, that burden is now off of my shoulders, and it just helped my mental health, and it helped us kind of connect a little bit better, because I was like, it's stressful. Like when you're the sole provider and you know, certain things, and then you're unable to go to work, it's like, it's super stressful. So anyways, during that, I'm like, I'm going to scale back, and I'm just going to do the YouTube. I'm just going to do the content thing. But then a couple weeks into it, and you're like, my work was my content. My content was there every day. Every day when I go to site, my content's there.
Yeah.
And I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
So I could just be literally like, shit, I need a story. I need a video. Okay, what are we working on? Here's a quick tip on how to install drawer fronts super quick and super easy. This is how pros install trim super quick and super easy. You want to know how to trim out stairs? Here you go. Door casing. And you just pull from every day.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what do I think people want to hear from me? And what can I rip apart in my own house and rebuild?
Well, you're in a good situation, because unlike me, you're a homeowner. I'm a filthy renter. And so you actually can work on your own house. That's something that I've wanted to do for so long, is I wanted to get more into, especially like I would love to do like custom built-ins and like crazy LED lighting that's like built into the walls and stuff like that, but I can't. So it's funny because I've always wanted to. I felt like, if I could just like own my own place, then I would just have like this infinite well of content that I could work on. So it's funny to hear you saying like, I can just like work on my own house. It's so limiting. It's funny what like the perspective is, right?
It is super, super funny. So, I mean, I don't know how much of a pre-show this is, content wise, but it's just basically therapy for me, so I do appreciate it. But I don't know how long do these things usually go for.
Well, we're coming up on an hour on the main show. This is normally where we would wrap up the main show and then head over to the after show. Okay. Seems like this is probably a good spot as any to end the main show.
Okay, there you go. That was easy. That flew by.
I know. That was an hour, solid hour there. So, real quick, plug your YouTube, Instagram, everything you want to plug. Your own podcast.
I forgot to kind of. I used to be a part of a podcast called For the Gram, which is like a content creator podcast. I was a big part of creating that and getting that off the ground. Like I said before, I've got some personal things that are going on that are just really consuming some time. So I've actually stepped away from that show now. I'm no longer part of it. Are they going to keep doing it without you? They are. They've done actually a much better job without me. So that's something to look forward to. They're still continuing For the Gram. If you're interested in content creating, there's some really good advice on that show. Definitely. I definitely recommend it. And then I started my own, I'm calling it a creative agency. Yes. Which is basically like a media company, but I am now one of the bids or jobs, or my first kind of role within this company is I'm the executive producer of a new podcast. It's called the Real Dad Podcast. So basically what we did was we killed Breakfast with the Bro Laws.
Yeah, okay.
Because it didn't make any sense. And then we just all agreed we're all dads. We will be dads hopefully forever.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk about the struggles and the joys and the hardships from a male perspective. That's from 4 people that aren't douchebags and they want to be supportive, but sometimes being supportive is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of fun. Some really deep belly laughs on the show.
So it's you, Dave, Joey, and then who's the fourth?
Brian.
And Brian. Nice.
Yeah. So 4 of my really, really good friends, Dave and Joey, used to be on HGTV for a really long time. So they've got some funny stories about like the camera life and all of that stuff. And Brian's one of the most talented carpenters I've ever worked with in my entire life. He's taught me a ton, and he is like the guy's brain is just creatively, it's insane. So hopefully we can do some more like fun, like build sort of stuff. And then, so this is kind of giving me the opportunity to merge the worlds that I love, which is creating content. And hopefully it's able to scale. My goal is to, this, Zach, because I consider you a close friend, but I'm very much willing, eager to help my inner circle and other creatives.
100%.
So this agency just kind of gives me the opportunity to allow me to do that at a hopefully a better scale with a better reach, and then financially as well. So I think the creator industry has been taken advantage of for a very long time. I think it's starting to boom, and you're going to start to see different shifts and stuff in that market, and hopefully I can I don't necessarily have to be the face of everything, because
that's what I was going to ask you. So this is you trying to find a way to maybe be less in front of the camera, or find like a revenue stream where you're not necessarily in front of the camera, right?
Exactly. It's basically an opportunity for me to help other creatives like yourself, if they want to go full time, if they want to do things, then it might be an opportunity to kind of a place where everybody can eat, I guess you can say.
Yes, there is such a need for that, because there are people filling that role right now who are just super exploitative and not transparent, not exactly. So I get emails like this every week, and I just send them to the garbage can.
and that's it. Whether it's consulting, whether it's like, whether it's even just helping manage, creating things, or like helping to fund. Maybe it's the first, maybe it's just giving an opportunity to get a creator their first brand deal or something along those lines. But outside of that, I'm able to then be a part of like more cinematic things, like more things that I shouldn't say actually enjoy, because I love doing the YouTube thing. And
I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean.
But like I might be able to do like a feature film, or be a part of things that are more kind of like in line with that, like deep love for cameras and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I find myself struggling all the time. Like even when I go out and I shoot something and I have like Bryson come out and film me, I simultaneously want to be in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time. And I feel like I don't get that outlet to be behind the camera nearly as much as I would want to. So I think I hear what you're saying.
So this is literally, so you were, can I ask a personal question? Is this the actual episode? Like
this is the actual, we've been doing the episode. So I think there was a miscommunication.
Hilarious. I thought this was like the pre-show, because the last time we did this, I was on for like 3.5 hours. And I was like, that's really embarrassing. That's really funny.
You said a couple things a couple times during you were like, so when we get to the real episode,
I know,
we'll talk about this
for the other episode. We'll say this for the other.
And I thought you were just misspeaking and meaning like the after show afterwards. No, this is the main show right now.
That's my dad brain kicking in. So I won't take you too long past the hour because that shit
No,
stresses
that's
me
okay. Look, this is a bonus content. This is what the people love.
out. So my head, and I think we've had this talk on the phone a couple of times, I think. But so you were one of the people that I think of because I know that you have that passion and that kind of I don't want to say drive, but you're super talented in that aspect, whether it be photography or whatever. So this then allows me an opportunity to work collaboratively with you without you having to be the brand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So selfishly, it just gives me that opportunity where it's like, hey, I want to be able to go shoot. I want to go mess around with my new camera with my buddy Zach. But then when our schedules are aligned, it's like, well, we really can't make this happen unless we're getting paid.
Yes. Yeah.
So why not get paid?
Yes.
Where then all of a sudden it's like, I'm very fortunate to have like a good ecosystem where I can kind of pitch these outlandish ideas and some of them stick.
Yeah.
So I do this all the time and you know, why not try to cycle it where it's not like hurting Remarkable Woodworks or like trying to make a way, because like Remarkable Woodworks is great, but I'm also a sole proprietor, and like, not to get too geeky on the finance side of things, like that's a tax nightmare trying to like create all this revenue, not all this revenue, like these like nickels and dimes that are getting sent my way.
Yes, you're trying to I know I deal with the same issues.
Yeah, so then at least with this this new endeavor, the opportunity is there.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more scalable, and it allows me to do what I love to do, which is create content for myself, being, you know, Remarkable Woodworks, but also I think one of my biggest strengths is that creative ideas. I'm a really good idea person.
Yes, 100%.
I'm great at that. Executing, not the best. Answering text messages, absolutely horrible.
Oh, you're pretty good with me. I don't think you've ever left me hanging before.
Well, that's a first, actually. And then like even financing, like I'm not good at invoicing people on time or follow-ups and all that other stuff. So I think this little creative agency allows me to then just even just be there to help other people, because that's another passion. I think my biggest, it's like an umbrella. I love making people laugh. I love teaching people. I love helping people. And I love building things. So this just kind of like streamlines all of that and allows me to do what I love to do, but a little bit more versatile at it.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think that's really nice.
Yeah, because I don't need the accolade. I don't need to be the face of everything.
Yeah.
And I love being, like you said, I love being behind the camera. But then sometimes it's just like fuck, I need a model and I need somebody to operate the camera. And you might be like, oh, well, you could probably, like, you could be the person that you're taking. I'm like, yeah, but it's not. There's something really weird about taking your own pictures and like,
oh man, it's the worst.
It's weird. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's weird.
It is. I've had to do it hundreds of times, and I still am not used to it.
It's weird. It's a weird thing, and it's funny because like I have no problem going into selfie mode and doing videos and even being on TV. Like I have no problem doing those things. But like taking your own headshot makes me feel dirty. I don't know what it is. It's just I
had to take a passport photo like a few years ago, and I was like, hey, I'm a decent photographer. Why am I going to go and pay somebody to take this photo? Well, I could just do it here in my office. Yeah. And I was there for like 3 hours trying to just get a decent passport photo.
I know. It's just because you know what it is. It's your work, right? And then so like if it's somebody else's, you're like, whatever. It's a passport photo. It is
fine.
what it is.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
But when it's yours, when it's yours, it's like working on your own house. You're that's why nothing ever gets done, because you're like, nah, I want to do that, but I want to do it right, and I don't have the time to do it right now. So I'm gonna let this sit for 6 years, and then it'll never get finished.
Well, on that note, what do you say we wrap up the main show and we'll go talk in the after show about some, the kind of stuff that we can't necessarily talk about.
100%.
We got some fun behind the scenes stuff. I want to talk to you about the Micro Pro Sienna campaign coming up, because I got some ideas and I'd like to find a way to collaborate on that.
Yeah, and that's a great example of the whole creative agency, was being able to like pull my friends into these opportunities. So
yes. So for everybody at home, if you would like to hear more about us talking about brand deals and fun stuff like that, check out the after show. All you got to do is join on Patreon. Eric made me set the prices really, really high, but I think there's a cheap one in there somewhere. And thank you, Mark, for filling in the guests, or not the guest seat, the co-host seat this week.
When the opportunity came up the first time, I'm calling bullshit. You said that I never ghosted you. That's the whole. You asked me to be a host, a third leg on this podcast, and I never got back to you.
We'll talk about that in the after show.
But anyways, I honestly can't thank you enough for bringing me on. You are. I know we don't get to talk as much as we like to, but I think we are two peas in a pod. And like I 100%. Said, this went by. This hour went by way too fast, and I honestly thought that this wasn't even like we were just warming up for our hour-long conversation. So,
well, we got more time in the after show, so don't worry about it.
I'm jacked, man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, send us emails, send us voice notes, and we will see you next week. Maybe with Eric back, maybe Mark just might replace him forever.
No, don't say that.
See you, everybody.